Hello, everyone. My name is Vicki Jensen. I am the regional treasurer for Taffy for 2020-21. I want to thank you so much for coming and judging for us this week. And I, as well as the students, appreciate you so much for everything that you're doing to make sure that their meet is very successful this year. As you know, this is a crazy year for all of us. Most of our students are learning virtually, which means that we don't even see them in the classroom. And so a lot of the competitions that the students have created, they've done completely on their own time, without much guidance from the teacher. They may get a little bit of guidance, a little bit of one-on-one, but it's pretty much been on their own. Students that are doing dual competitions may have to pass projects back and forth to each other. So they would do their part, then they would bring it back to the school, and then the other student would come pick it up from the school and take it back to their house and do their part. So they're working on their competitions, but they're not able to do it together unless they're at school, and even then they are having to still do it separate but within the same classroom, if that makes any sense. Also, the thing that I want you to remember whenever they're doing their competitions is that if they are filming from school, they're going to have a mask over their face. And sometimes what they're saying is going to be kind of hard to understand. So if you will please just rewind a little bit and listen to it again, just to make sure that you hear the information correctly, that helps. The other thing is some of the students will be filming from home, which means that we don't know what situation they're living in. We don't know if they're able to find a quiet place or not, though we told them to try to. Their film quality may not be that great. Their lighting may not be that great. So just keep in mind, you're looking at the presentation itself. You're not looking at all those other factors. Same goes at school. We're not used to having to film this information. So our filming at school may not even be the best. So, just all things considered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to get into the rubrics that you're going to need to have in order to judge these students. So if you will follow with me, you're going to go to taffyonline.org. That's where you're going to go. Actually, let me make it where you can. There you go. So you're going to go there, and I'm going to show you what you're going to do once you get to that site. You're going to go to taffyonline.org. It's going to take you to the home page, and this is what it's going to look like. You're going to click on competitions, and then you're going to click on guidelines and rubrics. So if you'll go to guidelines and rubrics, this is the page where you're going to find everything that you need in order to judge. So you're going to be judging junior varsity or varsity level students. So junior varsity is 9th and 10th graders. Varsity level is 11th and 12th graders. So we also have this broken down into 3 different categories. We have state competitive events, we have special edition events, and we have national competitive events. So I'm going to explain this. State competitive events are events that they compete kind of with themselves. So they want to make a 90 or above in order to go on to state level. So if they make a 90 or above right now with you, then they qualify to get to move on to the state competitive event stage. But that's where it's going to end. So they have to make a 90 or above at regionals, and then when they get to state, they have to make a 90 or above to get a blue ribbon. So I'm going to walk you through the state competitive events. I'm going to give you an example of one that you can follow. So we're going to go down to where it says Project Visualize, and notice that there are 6 different Project Visualize. These are bulletin board displays, and there are 6 different ways to show the bulletin board display for our state competitive events. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to click on where it says guidelines. So click on guidelines and it will take you to the information about that project. So it is a one entry per school. 2 people must be present for the project visualized. Okay, so notice it says must be present. So when they're given a project visualized bulletin board information, there needs to be 2 of them. This is a state event only. It does not go to nationals. And then, of course, these are the TEKS, which is teacher stuff you don't need to know. Okay, so then we have the objective and the overview, but what I need you to look at is the display itself. So these are things that the judge would need to know. The judge would need to look to see if it looks about 36 to 48 inches. Obviously, you can't measure it where you are. And these things need to have on it. It needs to have on it. It has to have the name of the school district, chapter size, city, town, 300 to 500 word summary. All that stuff is supposed to be over here on the board. So if you look at the board, and I know it's going to be hard because it's on video, if you look on the board and over on the left, you see a little information right here in the corner and it has written stuff, then that means they have the summary sheet. Okay, and then they're going to do their presentation. So you're going to be judging them based on primarily on their presentation and the look of the board for what you can see. So that gives you the information, but it doesn't give you the rubric information. So you're going to go over to where it says detailed rubric. Okay, and the detailed rubric tells you what all the stuff is that you're going to be judging them on. So if you want to go through here and read all that, then you will see what it is that they're going to get points scored for. Now, Mr. Four has created an electronic point system for you guys. You can go ahead, if you're doing a state event like Project Visualize, you can go ahead and start scoring those immediately into the electronic. Keep in mind, though, that the score we want for our kids to have is a 90 or above for our state competitive events if you feel like they are good enough to be able to go on. So just keep in mind that if it's an 88 or something like that, you might want to see what you can do to bump up their points just a little bit more to get it to a 90. Because again, we're trying to get them to state. But if it's really, really like it doesn't have any of the information, or there's missing a student, there's only 1 student versus 2 students or something like that, very much in detail for that event, then obviously you can score them what's appropriate. But again, keep in mind, you know, with COVID and everything else, there might be some reasons. So, but make sure that it's, you know, that it's a score that's worthy enough to be able to go on to state, or it's a project worthy enough to be able to go on to state. So you'll go ahead and score in there, and then it has a tally sheet, which is basically a smaller way to find out what the scoring of the judges are. I don't think you'll even see that since you're doing it at home. Okay, so that's state. That means 90 or above, and that means that they're going to state and it ends at state. So this is for like our beginners, the people who are just now starting to learn about TAFE. Then we have our special edition, and our special edition is the same thing, but it's modified for special education students. So with a special education student, you might have a student that is a TAFE member working with the special education student to help them through the competition. Okay, so their rubrics are modified just a little bit more so that we can make sure that everybody is able to compete. Then we go to our national competitive events. Now this is the one that is, when I say competitive, I mean competitive. The kids are competing for a first or second place in these events, okay? So you want to make sure that you're sending the best students to state competition so that they can compete for national level. So I suggest you do not score them electronically until you have watched every kid's competition in that category. And then you can go back and kind of get a better idea as to what the student should be scored, because you may start out really hard at the beginning and realize that that first kid that let's say in the children's literature, that first kid's book is actually the best book you've seen all day long, but you scored them really hard, so they're not going to make the top two. So I would suggest go ahead and score them on paper first, and then go back and fill them in electronically. That way, if you need to go and erase numbers and add and that sort of stuff, you can do so. So I'm going to show you what these look like. These are a little bit different rubrics than the state rubrics. So you're going to go to guidelines and rubrics just like before, and it's going to look very similar. So you see this is very similar than the state one as the state one, but you're going to come down to the bottom and that's it. There's the rubrics and everything. So you're going to click on here where it says national guidelines. This is going to take you to the Educator Rising information, and it is just our national affiliate. So we have TAFE, then we have Educator Rising. So this is our national affiliate. You're going to go past all this gobbledygook because you don't need to know this information, and you're going to go down to where it says the competition itself again, which is right here. Okay, this is the part that you need to know as a judge. So you're going to go through and you're going to read this information, and it's going to tell you the guidelines. This is for this event, is probably the biggest page, that the most important page that the judges need to know, which is the book guidelines and the presentation guidelines. Okay, so you're going to look and see how big the book's supposed to be, what age group is supposed to be, how many pages it's supposed to be, and then the presentation is how the kids themselves present the book to you. Then you're going to be able to see the rubrics and how exactly this should be scored. And of course, at the end is your regular scoring, which you will probably see from Mr. Four, and you can go in and start putting in your electronic scores for that event. Okay, so that is how that is done for national competitive events. However, there are some new events that used to be state only that are now national competitive events that are going to be scored even a little different than all of these events up here. So we have the interactive bulletin board, the Project Visualize Service project, and the Teacher Created Materials Contest for elementary and middle school. And the interactive bulletin board also is elementary and middle school. Now, these are national events, but they're scored a little different. In other words, the students need to make a 90 or above on their interactive bulletin board, their Project Visualize Service, or their teacher created materials in order to advance to state. So it's a little bit different. So you're going to click on here, same thing. It's going to take you to this page right here. It tells you how many entries per school, if it can be an individual or dual. So notice it can be an individual or a dual event. And then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to click on national guidelines. It's going to take you to the gobbledygook, and then you're going to go on down to where it says interactive bulletin board contest. So you will read through this as a judge, so you will know what you're judging on. And then your rubrics will start. Okay, so at this competition, at this level, we want to get a 90 or above in order to advance on the state competition. Once they get to state competition, they're going to have to make a 97 or above. So if you see something that you feel like they need to improve on, you need to let them know in judges' comments so that they can make sure they take care of that before they go on to state. So really, that's it for our judging. And if you do run into an issue and you have some problems or anything like that, you can reach out to us. You can reach out to Angela Four or Michael Four, or you can email me My email address is going to be posted right here if you need to email me for any judging questions. But the best persons to get in touch with would be either Michael Four or Angela Four, because Mr. Four is the one who came up with the electronic judging, and so he would probably be able to answer your questions better than I can answer questions about the competition itself. If you have any questions about the competition itself, I can help you through that. So thank you again for volunteering your time. We so much appreciate you, and you guys have a great day. Thank you. Goodbye.